Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into your weekly rundown. Joined in with me, as always, my brother from another, my co-host, all the way from the 305, Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain. We got our resident co-host back in the building, also from the 305. It's been way too long. Mike on the mic, Mike McCoy. How you doing, Mike?
Okay, Rich, gentlemen, thank you, man. I appreciate the invite again. Happy to be back talking some sports, man. Let's do it.
Let's get into it, man. It's been a while since we touched base with y'all. The Boston Celtics, they have captured number 17. Where's the number 17?
Is it 17?
Is this? I think it is 17, or is it 18? I think
I
it's
think it's
17.
18.
Might be 18. My fault, y'all. Number 18, then. They've captured number 18, the most championships in NBA history, eclipsing the Lakers, who just tied up with them in 2020. When me and Kay last left y'all, we talked about it. We both picked the Mavs. I'm not gonna lie though. There was a part of me that didn't want to pick the Mavs, and my biggest thing there was I just felt there was something in me that just felt like it was the Celtics' time. They've been knocking at the door for so long, for years. They've been, they've been in the conference finals almost every year since they came together and brought that core together. They've made it to an NBA finals, losing to Golden State. And it's either been NBA finals or conference finals for them for the last 3 years. So there was just something in me that said, these guys, they're knocking on the door and it just seems like it's their time. And you really don't see what the Celtics just did. You really don't see that in today's NBA where it's kind of this homegrown thing. Like we're not the way teams are constructed nowadays, it's not, they were knocking at the door. Nobody said that in a long time. But that's just what it came off like to me. They dominated. We can talk about them not having to face certain people, but a lot of us, this show included, when we came into the NBA finals, we used that as a talking point and mentioned that this is the first time they would be battle tested, and they really weren't. They dominated in the NBA finals too. So, I got to give them props, man. I can't hate on them. Jaylen Brown Finals MVP. I think we all expected that once they took control of the series. And heck of a team. They're going to be something scary. The winning championship, the starting five all got paid, so they're not going anywhere. And yeah, I just Kyrie Irving didn't really get going up until late. By the time Kyrie really got going, it was a little too late. And then Luka, I don't know how I feel about Luka, man. Luka's a baller, but that style of play, Kobe Bryant, the great late Kobe Bryant once said it. That style of play will not win you a championship. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Mavs and what they did, but let's go ahead and get in there, y'all. What did y'all see in this finals?
Mike, you can go first.
Um, you want to know what, man? Everybody was making predictions and all of that stuff, and I never officially like put one down. They could be, you can go back and say, "Oh, Mike, you got it right," or "Mike, you got it wrong." I did say it was going to go seven. I did say in my head, I'm like, I got Boston. And I was shocked in the amount of people. Not I wasn't shocked so much in the amount of people picking Dallas, but I was shocked in the amount of people that picked Dallas. I thought this was going to be a breeze. And I'm thinking, how? Just because Kyrie and Luka look really good right now? And I get it, momentum is big in sports, and getting hot at the right time is even bigger, especially in the postseason. But I didn't see it that way at all, man. I thought it was a bad matchup. The only reason I thought it was going to go seven was because Luka and Kyrie were playing well. They were, and I acknowledge that, like in my head. But I had Boston. I thought they had the better roster. I thought it was a bad. I thought Kyrie was going to have a way better. I thought every game that Dallas won, he was going to, like I said, I thought it was going seven. So I figured he's going to have at least three really, really, really good games. I was shocked that he had a subpar finals. But in my heart of hearts, I had Boston. I had Boston, and I wasn't surprised in the outcome. I was surprised that it only went 5 games because I did think that Dallas was going to have a better showing. But that team, man, it's the best 3-point shooting team in basketball. They did, and what I want to acknowledge is this, and then I'll give it to Kay. Everybody wants to make a point about how they had an easy path and all of that stuff. Guys, they had a starter out since the Heat series. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. Like, you know, fine, he's not your first or second option, but maybe he's not even your third option, maybe. But he's still an important part of that starting lineup. He's a mismatch. They call him the unicorn for a reason. And people always leave out he was hurt too since what game two of the first round. So congrats to them. They deserve it, and we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, congrats to them. I picked Dallas as Rich just said, but I did say I thought Boston had the better matchups. I thought the fact that they're able to switch everything is going to mess up
Hmm.
kind of everything that Dallas was doing. If you've seen a lot, they were getting a lot of lobs over the top. They were getting a
Yep.
lot of corner threes off the pick and roll and people helping. And I with the defenders that Boston had, I thought that they had the better matchups. But I thought that Dallas was rolling, and I just didn't believe in the Celtics. If you look at most of their series this year, they always give away a game. They gave away a game to
Yeah.
the Heat, gave away a game to the Cavs. I just wasn't a big believer in the Celtics. Uh, Now you add that on top of the fact that Kyrie had almost like an all-time stinker. If you would have
Yeah.
told me that before the series, I definitely would have picked Boston. There was the we don't know. There was like the whole Boston thing, but I didn't know if that was really going to affect him. I thought he's going to be more motivated to kind of play well. So, yeah, Boston had the better matchups. Kyrie didn't play well, and after that, it was kind of Luka. I think the Celtics blew up their offense and forced them to play one on one, which you think plays into the Mavs' hands. But if you watch the Mavs the whole playoffs, Kyrie was picking his spots. He would not score in the first half and he'd give you 20 in
Hmm.
the second half. The way they were playing, it's Kyrie kind of had to go, 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 go. Or you're going to rely on PJ Washington and other people
Yep.
trying to create their own offense, which just wasn't dumb. And then you give away that lob threat. PJ Washington's not giving that corner three. So it was Luca kind of going a lot on one and Kyrie going a lot on
Yep.
one and not create for
Hmm.
others. And then Boston had 4 or 5 great defenders out there at all times. So it was a bad matchup, and I said that coming in, but I was going with Dallas, and Boston proved me wrong. So shout out to them. They played a lot better than I expected. They didn't really give away the game like I thought they were going to. I still think maybe Dallas should have tried to throw in uh, Tim Hardaway Jr. a little earlier.
Yeah,
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah.
they needed someone else who can create their own shot, and I feel like he's the only person who can create their own shot. Maybe he doesn't play as well on defense, but at that point you needed to kind of open up your offense a little more. They got him in there. I think he had like 5 threes in the fourth quarter in Game 4, but
Yeah, he
just kind of
did.
a little too late. But
Yeah.
yeah, shout out to Boston and getting their 18th ring. And they played
Can I
well.
ask you all a oh, go ahead, my bad.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, can I ask you all a question? A lot of was made about Jalen Brown winning Finals MVP, and you know, think he deserved it, but I'm not. That doesn't mean that I don't think Jason Tatum didn't deserve it. I think it should have been co-MVPs because you're talking about a guy that led the team in points, rebounds, and assists. I don't know if it was throughout the entire playoffs or in that series, but one of those two, Jason Tatum, led the Boston Celtics in points, rebounds, and assists either in the final series or the entire playoffs. That's number one. And just because you have a bad shooting game doesn't mean you have a bad game. There was two games that I think he had like 8 or 9 assists.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, at like right before the half. So, and then I think his best scoring game was the clincher. But um, I just wanted to know what you guys thought about that, and what do you think? Well, we're gonna get into this later, so I want to ask it. But what do you guys think about the Finals MVP whole thing?
I
I
think
think
no, my bad. Go ahead, Kay.
No, I think that there was a narrative out there already. I think Tatum played bad in the first couple games, and I think that was kind of held against him. Brown was
Hmm.
coming off the MVP in the conference finals,
Hmm.
and I think there was just like this narrative out there already that like Tatum wasn't playing well, and kind of Brown was playing better. So I felt like once that narrative was out there, Tatum was kind of at an uphill battle. I think when
Uh,
you look at the numbers, like you just showed at the end and stuff, but with a lot of these things, some people's mind are made up before anything
hmm.
happens.
Yep.
So he was at an uphill battle, considering that. and I don't think there's anything he could have did to kind of change people's mind at that point.
I mean, it's I felt like it's overblown, but I knew that it was going to come to that because we've been dealing with this narrative with the two of them for the whole time that they've been together. Whose team is it? And the reality is Jaylen Brown has kind of come through more for the Celtics in those big spots than Tatum has. Not to say Tatum's never come up for them when they needed him to, because that's just not true. Um, Co-MVPs would have been nice to see, especially with the kind of team dynamic, but it's just I didn't want to think too much into it because they really just they have two ones. So it's kind of you it's I'm not really answering your question to per se, but like it's kind of their battle is almost like when LeBron teamed up with D Wade, the first year
Mm,
they lose to the Mavericks, and it's like LeBron was deferring, and they had to have the conversation with D Wade's like, nah, you take the reins, do what you got to do. And it for them, it's kind of like that. Like, people kind of look at it like it's BS when players sit and say, your turn, my turn kind of thing. Like, oh, they can't really do that. But that's for the most part, when I look at these two play together, that's what I see. And to really dig into what you're saying, because this is something that Russell Westbrook has talked about throughout his career. When people talk about, oh, he wasn't scoring, and he'll be like, well, I can affect the game in different ways. JT affected the game in different ways. His shot wasn't falling. Okay, I can get rebounds, or I can set people up for assists. So, the formula is the formula. I ain't you know, if you know basketball, like like even like I don't even think that these guys really thought about it like that. I
mm,
just think everything is just over dissected, but it is what it is.
Okay.
But
I was just
remember, before the series, Jason Kidd said Jalen Brown's their best player. So there, there,
It was
there
after it
was
was after
that.
game one.
Yeah. So
He
there
had to
was
do that.
there was the narratives and the back and forth and stuff. So I think Brown kind of got off to the better start, and then the series before that, and then Tatum did play. I think he played bad like the first game. I think he played really bad the first game, or
yeah.
whatever.
He
Shooting
had a
numbers,
double
his
double
shooting,
shooting,
yeah,
shooting, right.
his shooting wasn't there. So like Tatum's known for scoring, and his
Hmm.
scoring kind of wasn't there. So people was like, oh, he's not really playing well. But like a lot of people know because you'll see people call it out like, well, he's taking what the defense is giving him. He's getting more assists. He's getting more rebounds and things like that. You're not supposed to try to force it, especially if you're not shooting well. So, but it's what they say again. This game is all about getting buckets.
Yep.
So it will forever be about buckets. Brown just got
Like
a hottest start.
two things with that. One, when you look at the statement Jason Kidd made with Jaylen Brown is their best player. That's who we're prepping for and things like that. They just came off a Eastern Conference Finals series where Brown was the better player, right? He won conference finals MVP for a reason. If you're Jason Kidd and you're going back, knowing you got to scout your team and you're looking at how the Celtics just played going into this finals, realistic, we know Tatum's a bucket. We know Tatum's gonna do what he do. But going living in the present, who are you telling them to look out for? Who is the number like who's the number one guy that we need to make sure we go at and we attack in a certain way? It's got to be Jaylen Brown in that instance. So in a way, he's not lying with that, but also mental warfare. There
Hmm.
nothing is war, and we got to do anything that we can do to try and get some kind of edge. So if I can say something that I think might drive a divide, and in the end it proved not to, but if I can do something like that, yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Hmm. I hear that.
Yeah, it started the narrative. So shout out to him. I knew he was doing, but I think the politics
Yeah.
and everything, people kind of
We
ran
talking
with it.
about a guy that was asking his one of his players to bump him so because he didn't have any timeouts left. Okay, so he knows all about that mental game.
Shout out Jay Kidd, man. Jay Kidd's got a heck of a coaching career ahead of him,
Hmm.
and that's that he's been off to a fabulous start even before he got to Dallas. So
True.
um. So that's the finals, man. And after the finals, we move straight into the NBA draft. A lot of big moves happen. The thing for me when I watch this draft, we all knew coming in that it wasn't going to be a strong draft, but every draft produces an all-star. We'll see who that is in the coming years. But a lot of teams made moves that position themselves really well, just off not even trading picks so much, but just off what they did alone. I love Minnesota getting Rob Dillingham at 8, making the trade with the Spurs. That it's a great situation for Rob Dillingham to be able to he maybe be their sixth man. He'll be in the rotation. You get to learn from a guard like Mike Conley, and then just be that point guard of the future for them. Like they set themselves up really lovely. Stephon Castle going to the Spurs at number 4. I I personally think that Stephon Castle might be the best player in this draft when it's all said and done. But then, I mean, you've got other teams that made some moves too. We'll see what the Atlanta Hawks do. Obviously, they chose to not trade the first pick. Washington getting Alex Sarr at number 2. What are some of the things that stood out for y'all in this draft?
You go ahead,
Yeah,
Kay.
I like what Utah did. I like Cody Williams. He's obviously the younger brother of Jalen Williams, who plays for the Thunder. He's like 6'9", can score the ball. So I like what Utah did. I also get in Isaiah from
Collier?
UNC. Yeah, in the late in
You know,
the
it was big.
first round. I like that too. Obviously, they're in the rebuilding stage, so you get two young pieces who have a lot of upside. I think Cody Williams could kind of be like his brother. He's just 6'9". So
Hmm.
then you Isaiah, the point guard. If he was able to come out of high school, he would have been a top 5 pick last year. Obviously, his year at USC wasn't as great, so falls a little bit. His jump shot has some questions, but he's going to a place where he can learn and uh, and build, so which is kind of perfect for him. They already got what's my guy's name from last year? Dang. They made a couple good picks last year that played well. So building off that, getting those two guys, I think that's great. I like what they're building over there. Uh,
They won the
Washington, I
draft to
like
me, by the way.
what you say. You
My
said
fault not to
they
cut
won.
you off.
You
I
said
feel
they
like they
won the
won the
draft.
draft. I felt like Utah won the draft with everything that they did.
And then picking up
Yeah,
Filipowski in the second round too.
right. And they got the big guy from Duke. I like what they did. I like what Washington did. Obviously, they had the second pick, but late in the first round, they got Keon, the guy from Miami. He's a shooter. He's like 6'9". Kind
Hmm.
of reminds me Cam Johnson, the one that's on the Nets. I see him kind of being that type of build, but he's a lot younger. I think he's coming out as like a freshman.
Yep.
So I love Washington. I feel like had they got the guy from Pitt. I can't remember his name right now, but he's a scorer. He has the dreads. I like him a lot too. I think he's gonna be able to score the ball if he comes around. Obviously, going to a rebuilding stage, so that's good
Yeah.
for them to get some minutes, get some playing time, and build off of that. So I like what
Hmm.
Washington did, and I like what Utah did. Sorry, I can't remember those guys' names.
I'm trying to find it for you right now, and I couldn't.
Uh,
The guy from Pittsburgh, can't find his information.
yeah,
Why you do that?
he was a good scorer at Pitt. I feel like his last name starts with a
Oh, I
C.
know who you're talking about. Oh man, didn't he already have a summer league game, I think? I think he played
Uh,
already. I know who you're talking about, man. I know who you're talking about. I think he averaged like 17 in college at Pitt, something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
was a good player.
So there was three names because I'm a homer, I'm a Kane. Three names that I was really focused on in this draft. And one of them I thought that wasn't going to be around by the time my Bulls picked because there's just no way. I thought that Dalton Connect was the best player in the draft. I mean,
Let's talk about it,
oh
man.
my
Let's talk
God.
about it.
I am in love with that kid's game. That kid is smooth. He can shoot. You can't rush him. Gets to his spot. Just a score. He's a pure scorer. And he's only going to get better. He has the height for He could play what 2, 3 positions if he wants to. He can bring the ball up the court if he wants to. Um, I have to admit, I would like to see a little bit more defensively. I'm not calling him a bad defender, but you can get that coach stuff. I cannot believe that my Bulls passed on him. I almost threw the remote at the TV. And mind you, I'm one of those guys that feels like if you suck that bad, like my Bulls, there's not one guy that's gonna make you, you know, a contender all of a sudden. So I was all for the Bulls trading their pick. They didn't. They picked up Matas. What's his last name? Buzelis.
Oh, but he's a hooper though.
He's a hooper. He is. I forgot where he's from. He played in the G League.
He's from
Has
Hmm.
Chicago.
he's from Chicago, but I'm talking about his parents. I forget where
Oh,
they're from.
Somewhere
He's
in
from
Europe.
Chicago. He grew up, played high school ball in Chicago, G League Ignite, but he's let me see. I have it here. It's not in this breakdown. But in any event, I like him, but I wanted Dalton Connect. Like I really wanted that guy because I've seen a good amount of Tennessee basketball just because of him, and I just love his game. So I like what the Lakers did by getting him. I don't think that they could believe that he fell to their laps. And then the other one that I was kind of looking at was Zach Edey to see. I'm
Memphis.
yeah, Memphis. I'm just interested in seeing how his game will translate because I'm wondering if he's going to be pulled at the end of games. Excuse me, he's not the most athletic. You know what I'm saying? I'm wondering if they're gonna see some Rudy Gobert in him. I don't know. The Duke to score, so let's see, how he'll be used, in the post or whatever. So I don't have a problem with the pickup. I'm just interested to see how he fits in today's NBA because he's not a guy that is going to be rim. He's not a rim runner. He's not going to run the floor. He's not, if you have him matched up against like a Bam or something like that, that's probably not the best matchup for Zach. So we'll see. And then the other one was, well, yeah, those. Oh yeah, and our boy Kayson George. He reminds me of oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank. Who's buddy that busted his knee up with the Clippers, then had a decent career?
Oh,
Sean
Sean
Livingston.
Livingston.
Sean Livingston, but can shoot. I see Sean Livingston, but can shoot with him. Maybe a little bit more athletic, but same build, 6'8", 6'9", really, really smart point guard. I love him. Really disappointed he decided to come out, but why not now in a draft that wasn't the strongest? So who was Knicks drafted him, but then I think they moved him to Washington, right?
It was
Yeah.
Washington's
It
pick
was
because
Washington's pick. Okay.
everybody's going off about like the Dillingham thing. I'm being here at Austin. I'm a little tapped in to
Okay.
like what's going on with them.
Okay.
The Spurs never picked Rob Dillingham. Minnesota wanted Rob Dillingham. The Spurs had another name in mind. They never released it, but it wasn't Rob Dillingham.
Okay.
So that's just
Okay.
kind of like what they're doing. Like Knicks picked him, but that
Got it.
probably wasn't the player that the Knicks were going after. That's who Washington
Got it.
wanted.
Okay. Okay. Um, that was it. I really wasn't interested in the Reed Shepherd. I don't have anything against the kid. I'm not impressed about his game. Because shoot the lights out, I need to see more. Okay. I'm not rooting against him or whatever. And then Bronny, I'll shut up after this one. I was really happy that I'm just glad. My thing with him is people like to jump on him because, oh, whatever his dad, which is true. His dad definitely got him what he got. Okay. But I think it's very premature to say anything negative about his game when A, he didn't have a full college season, B, he couldn't have a full college season because of his heart condition. And I'm sorry, but I think he has the tools to be a serviceable rotation player. All right. I won't be mad if he is a decent, maybe not six man right off the bat, but he can come in and provide perimeter defense. He can get into the lane. He can shoot. He's not going to miss. He's the one. I don't think he's one of those guys. He's going to scare you from behind the three, but you don't want to leave him open. You know what I mean? I'm really rooting for him because of the fact that so many people are rooting against him. I don't think it's right, but I don't think the kid. I'm not going to say he belongs, but I think that if you give him like right now, it was announced that he's going to the G League for however long. I think you're going to prove a lot of people wrong. I'll just put it that way.
The
Yeah.
Lakers knew what they were getting when they drafted Bronny. It's not like for the people that like made such a big deal about it, they picked him up at 55.
Right.
There's not you're not how many 55th picks have longevity in the NBA? It's not like he took someone's spot that was so deserving of it. You know what I mean? And yeah, his dad did get it for him. We can all agree, like if we were in positions to put our children in
Mhm.
success in the future, we would do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And like I said, it's not like they did anything grimy and he got drafted over somebody that should have got drafted. It's not one of those situations. And I totally agree with the rotational thing. I like some people comped him to Miles McBride. I like that a
Mhm.
lot. I think that's a very good comp. I think he has the tools and we're not you're not gonna see it. The reality is like I said, the Lakers knew what they got when they drafted him. He didn't have the greatest performance in his summer league debut yesterday, but I
Right.
don't think that they expected him to either. I think they know that they have a project on their hands, and it could pay out for them sometime in the future.
And you know who didn't have a good game for them yesterday? Their first overall, not first overall pick, but their first pick. Dog,
Connect. Yeah, he didn't play
he
that
didn't
well
play. He
either.
didn't play well.
Did not shoot that well at
No.
all.
But I
I
expect that
mean,
to change for the both of them.
yeah, definitely. I don't have much to say about it, but if there's a lot of things, there's a lot of careers that I want to get into right now, and if my dad could get me a job in any of them, I'm taking it. So I'm
Yep.
not mad at
Right.
nobody. I'm actually mad that I'm not in a position for my dad to get me a job somewhere. Not that I'm mad at my dad. Shout out to my dad. But if I had those opportunities, and we all see it in every other career field and
Literally.
things like
This
that.
this is
So
America. This happens. This happens. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
yeah, so this happens in every other career field. I'm not gonna knock it because he's an athlete. Listen, like you said, he was the 55th pick, 54th pick. But man, if they took him with the 16th pick, I don't care. My dad, it's hard for me to get a job right now. If my dad can get me a job, I'm taking it. I don't care what number it is. So
You
shout
know
out
who
to
the
Bron,
50th
shout out to Bronny, and yeah, that's all I gotta say about that.
you know who the 55th pick in last year's draft was, right?
I don't.
No, who was it?
Our boy from Miami with the Pacers.
Oh, Isaiah Wong.
He went to 55 and they were talking about the contracts and the differences between the contract. Isaiah Wong is now without a team and he signed, I think it was a $555,000 deal or whatever. And then they were talking about, man, Bronny got like they were just comparing the contract and they were talking about how that was messed up. But you know, that was the 55th pick last year. And that was the ACC player of the year.
Exactly. So
Just
sometimes you,
just
even if you're accomplished, sometimes you still need your dad to
mhm.
get you a job. So it's just the name of the game. So like I can't knock nobody for doing it because Bronny could have been over accomplished right now when undrafted. So
Yeah.
nobody would be
Yeah.
saying nothing then. So like,
Yep. Yep.
you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
I have faith in him. I think he is capable of being, like I said, at worst, a serviceable rotation player on anybody's team.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Definitely
Um,
has the athleticism. Obviously,
Yeah.
he's probably been training like a pro since he was 5.
Hmm.
So all
Passing
that
abilities there too.
the intangibles is there. It's just like again, if to really get into it, obviously he had a cardiac arrest. Like people get on him about averaging 6 points, and the same
Yeah,
thing I
man.
told people, he had a bad heart and he averaged 6 points. There's some people who have good
Exactly.
hearts and can't get 6 points. So don't try to knock his 6 points. Like
Yeah,
I know some
man.
people who got great hearts and they ain't never get 6 points in the college season in their life. So
Hmm.
I don't want to hear that. So he's coming off a bad heart, and obviously you're thinking maybe he should have stayed another year or so. But if my dad can get me a job, why am I staying?
Exactly. What am I
So,
saying? And he didn't. He was kept out of today's game with some
Knee
knee
swell.
soreness. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's nothing a big deal. So
but he has the athleticism.
yep.
And like I say, he's probably been training like a pro since the day one. So like a lot of people say it, like the pro game will probably fit him better. He's been training to be a pro. He hasn't been training to be a college player.
And if you look at the shots that he missed yesterday, it was all just they were just missed shots. He missed open shots. He missed shots that he created off the dribble. His two buckets came, on a drive to the basket, coming off a curl, which was really nice to see. And then from the wing, he created, took a step back and nailed a jumper from maybe I don't know 20 feet. But that's gonna come together, man. It was just missed shots.
And it's one summer
Yeah,
league
I
game.
don't.
I've
Yeah, I
seen
was just about
people
to say
play
that.
terrible in summer league. Like I've seen people play terrible for our whole summer league. Brandon Prajinski, the one for Golden State. I don't think he played that well last year in Golden State, and he ended up starting this year over
There you
Klay
go.
Thompson. So like, it's the first season, it's the first summer league. I wouldn't think too much into it. Some people play bad their first one, come back next one, and be killing. So that's how
Hmm.
it goes.
Um, just a couple other points touch on in the draft. Your Zach Edey point you make, I love that for Memphis, and that's what I was getting into too when we were talking about this earlier in the segment. Playoff teams or teams that you expect to be in the playoffs really made some moves that I liked a lot. The Zach Edey one being one of them. As far as like his role there, I think that they want to use him kind of the same way that they use Steven Adams. See if they can replace Steven Adams' production over there. He's younger.
Yeah,
Um, I like the fit with him and Ja. And obviously
yeah.
Marcus Smart isn't going anywhere.
Hmm.
I think you're gonna see a completely different Memphis team with Ja back in the fold. And you know, the West should be worried about a team like Memphis moving forward,
Oh
especially
yeah.
when you solidify the front court like that. When you pairing him up with Jaren Jackson Jr. You know, I love that. Love that. That's
My
scary.
my only my only thing about Edie is that I don't know if he has the foot speed right now to keep up with them. They're kind of a young up and down team. Obviously, he's probably not going to play that many minutes as his rookie season. You kind of expect him to just come there, be a big body, and rebound and stuff. But I think going forward, I like the pick. So I'm not saying I don't like the pick. I think going forward, though, I don't know about his foot speed kind of keeping up with
Yeah.
those guys. I don't know if they're going to try to play slower with him or whatever the case may be, but we'll see how it goes. I like what they do. Obviously, they have talent and stuff already. They just need to get healthy. So,
Right.
and they need to replace Steven Adams. So, like you said, Steven Adams led the league in like offense and rebounding every year when he was with them. So, if Edie can grab 2 or 3 of those a game, I think he helps.
The other move that I don't think enough people are talking about it. If you follow the Heat, which both of you guys are in Miami, so I know that you guys are tapped in. One of the biggest things people are clamoring for, even like maybe internally, moving Bam to the four. Bam's not a natural five. He plays the five. He's great. He's great playing the five. It could be scary hours for him playing the four.
Hmm.
They drafted Khalil Ware out of Indiana, 7-footer, can shoot the three. Great. He just put up 26 and 11 in his second summer league game today.
Right.
Um, Give it like 2 years when that kid, that's definitely gonna be something to look out for in about
Hmm.
2 years when he's a little more seasoned and learns a little bit more. I think the hand, working on like his hand coordination and everything, handling the ball needs a little bit of work from what I've seen in his first game. But that was definitely a move where, we're talking a lot about what Miami didn't do as far as positioning themselves to compete with all these other teams in the league. But the young talent that Miami's, for whatever reason, holding on to is from they usually draft well. They pick up these players from the G League that, end up being good for them and then get contracts somewhere else. So when they draft somebody, you got to pay attention to that. And it
Right.
feels like they filled the need with that pick.
Yes, I'm big on Khalil Ware too. I
Hmm.
actually didn't know who he was before the draft, but after seeing like his highlights and stuff, I got like Derek Lively type of vibes come in, especially for the Heat, who's like an older team. You get a young guy coming there with some energy, block a couple shots. If you watch the Heat this year, they wasn't really a great home team. I feel like he's someone who can come in with energy, get the crowd pumped, come in, block a couple shots, grab a couple rebounds, and that type of things changes the game, especially for like an older team. So it gets maybe the older guys up a
Yeah.
little more. So I think like you say, it helps move Bam to the floor. He can four. He can come in, shot block. Uh, I also like his touch. I think his jump shot looks better than kind of Lively's is right now. He has
He
like a smooth jumper. He needs to work on
100%.
it a little more, but like his mechanics look good. So I think he'll maybe be able to space the floor a little bit for them too. So I think he's good. Like you said, he had like 26 and 11 today. He had 5 blocks yesterday. So that's kind of what they need from him, some energy and like you said, as he puts on a little more weight, learns the NBA game, learning how to guard the fives and different things like that. But being in Miami, learning from those guys, even learning from Bam, I think it's going to help him a lot. So I like the pick for them a lot. I actually think he would have kind of what I was just saying about Edie and the foot speed. He'd have been great for Memphis. But
Hmm.
I like him in Miami and see the things they'll be able to do.
Yeah, man. I think that just to go back to the Stephon Castle thing, man, the kid, when I talk about why I think he might end up being the best pick here, he had to sacrifice a ton of his game at UConn. He came in as a point guard, did not assume the majority of the ball handling responsibilities over there. So, he had to sacrifice his game a little bit over there. He's won a national title, even
Mm,
with their Final Four. Didn't he step up for them big time in their Final Four matchup and the Elite Eight?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think he had a few big games. He wasn't. I
He's
think in the
come.
champ. I think the championship game. He wasn't really known as a scorer. He went out there, was able to get them some buckets, change that game around.
He's someone I know that the Spurs have been watching. So, and then you talk about like the Heat, how they go about selecting talent. The Spurs know how to select talent. Even this is like the first these last 2 years are the first times they've had lottery picks in years, and even picking outside the lottery, they've been able to pick. Kawhi Leonard wasn't a lottery pick. DeJounte Murray wasn't a lottery pick. You know what I mean? They drafted Derek White, who just killed it for the Boston Celtics. So it's another team that you pay attention to when they do make picks like that. This kid, what his biggest knock coming into the draft was his shooting. I watched his game in summer league yesterday. He looked like he was shooting pretty well to me, and that's what I mean about sacrificing his game for UConn's title run.
Mm,
He's not going to be the starter, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later because they signed Chris Paul, but he gets to get put in a situation. Number one, you got to go through UConn's system. You know that you developed as a player just from playing at UConn. Now you get to go into the Spurs system and develop as a player with the Spurs. Greg Popovich is still there. Greg Popovich has used Chris Paul as like an example of what a point guard should be and should look like. And you're pairing him up with Wemby. Now this kid gets to have, I mean, they said how big of a deal Chris Paul was for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Stephon Castle gets to have the same exact experience as San Antonio now. Whether it's for half a season or a full season, you can't tell me that's not going to make dividends.
Chris Paul made what's the center that I still don't understand why everybody thought he was as good as he was
DeAndre
when he
Jordan?
was no when he was with Houston. Capella.
Oh,
Capella.
He made Capella look good. Okay. Wemby is going to that's all NBA this year. All NBA this year. I can't wait. I can't wait. And you know how I am with traditional non-scoring type point guards. Those are my faves. And Chris Paul is probably, one of the best that I've ever seen play. I love it for Wemby. I love it for the Spurs. Maybe not so much for Chris Paul because he's trying to win something right now. But at this point, he probably doesn't even care.
Yeah, I think I think he wants to win, but I think with the opportunity maybe to play with those young guys and have an impact on some of those young guys, I think that that's something that he he maybe saw the opportunity, and obviously playing with
Damn.
Wemby, who looks like he's going to be one of the best players going forward. I think he saw that with Castle. We talked about Castle being able to play with him, develop him. So he's taken that role on before, and maybe that's something he's interested in still doing. And I think they got better. They just picked up Harrison Barnes, so I think they got a
damn,
couple of
my
veterans.
God.
Who knows what else they might be able to do? So they might surround them with maybe a couple more veterans. They have a nice
That's true.
decent young crowd. They
That's
have
true.
a chance of maybe making a playoff or
The
or
Spurs,
playing.
the Spurs, from what I understand, are trying to set themselves up for the next decade. That's what I've been hearing. They're trying to set themselves up with the next decade, and they already have some young talent. Obviously, we know Wemby. Wemby's this generational talent that we've been hearing about for the last 3 years before he was even drafted.
Right.
But then they just paid Devin Vassell, who's you can play him at the 2 or the 3. Kid's a shooter. Can play really well on the wing. You still got Jeremy Sohan there. I didn't like Jeremy Sohan playing point guard. It was an experiment that they tried this year. But other than that, solid player. Keldon Johnson is still there. Like I said, but they just drafted Stephon Castle. So the young talent's there. And when you see what they have in the young talent, you like that as well. But then there's still the appeasement of what they're doing for Wemby. You know, if Chris Paul, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, if Chris Paul would have signed with like the Lakers or like a team that's talking about contending for a title, I would have looked at it a little different. Like, I don't, that's not a serious move to me. No disrespect to Chris Paul. I just think he's at a different phase in his career right now. Not saying that
Hmm.
he can't help a team still, but I just think you're pairing him up with Wemby. You're gonna see it's gonna be Lob City in San Antonio,
Yep.
and everybody's gonna see like um a lot of the Clippers players from that Lob City team talk about like playing their team before Chris Paul and their team when Chris Paul was there.
Right.
And just the looks that they were getting and that they were practicing this stuff. Like Chris Paul, let me know how you guys like to get the ball. And I'm gonna put it there. Just let me know, be ready to get it. That's exactly what they're gonna get in San Antonio. And these other guys, Trey Jones, like I said, Stephon Castle, these other guys that are point guards there who don't really know, how to put the ball in play like that are gonna get to see this. So when he's long gone, that presence will still be felt.
There's
Yeah,
no that.
definitely. I
Yeah,
think.
go
Oh,
ahead,
go
Kay.
ahead, Mike. Now you can go ahead, Mike.
I was just, going to regurgitate that and just, follow up because just learning from, and like you said it. Look what he did for Shea. Chris Paul is a magician out there, and then Pop. You're talking about a Pop that I'm sorry, a guy that coached guys like Tony Parker, and now he has a Chris Paul, and then it's just that whole dynamic about how to win. I think that's going to go a super long way for the future of that franchise.
Yeah, if you look at Chris Paul, I think it shows that everywhere he's been, that he's improved their win percentage. They've won wherever he's gone. So, and like I said, he's had that role of taking on and mentoring some younger players, kind of like
All
the
right.
OKC situation. So, I think that's something he looked at and saw they also have a chance to maybe make the playoffs, and he was fine with it. And also, I don't know if the Lakers, any other place, was going to be able to give him $11 million. So that also makes a difference right now.
Right. Remember when he went to OKC and all the people were just writing that team off because they're like, oh man, like whatever. And they ended up making the playoffs. Didn't they make the playoffs with
Yeah,
his
they did. They did, and they gave was it Houston?
a run for
Yeah,
their
they
money?
played Houston in the first round. Yeah,
Oh
yeah. They
yeah.
went game. They went to
That's it.
game seven. They went to
Yes,
a
it
game
did.
seven.
And that was a 1-8 matchup. That was a 1-8 matchup. You're right. And so I think it's going to be something like that. So, I mean, I get it. That OKC roster was a lot better, or maybe I don't know if it was a lot better. We're still not done. We'll see what San Antonio can pick up from here to opening day. But I won't be surprised to see him competing for a play-in.
I completely agree with you. I was actually going to say it before you did. Because even like the Harrison Barnes move cannot be understated, right? I feel like that's at minimum a playing team now. I don't think that I really don't even, if you're San Antonio, between what you did in the draft, what you have already, and what you added in free agency, I don't think you have to do anything else. See what you got. But obviously, Harrison Barnes is an NBA champion. He's got a ton of playoff experience. Chris Paul is a Hall of Fame player,
Mm-hmm.
and you see what you got with everything else. And if you got to make some tweaks at the deadline, which some people might speculate, then you do it.
Right, right.
But this to me, this is a play. The Harrison Barnes move, that trade, and I want to get into that too because I actually don't like the move for Sacramento. I don't know how y'all feel about it. I felt like they should have just stayed pat. Seems like they're trying to just bring a name in there for the sake of saying we brought somebody in.
Mm-hmm.
But that move might have solidified playing for San Antonio, in my opinion.
I think the Kings kind of wanted to switch it up. I mean, they had that team for the last 2 years. They wanted to maybe add more firepower. So I think a lot of people aren't high on DeMar DeRozan, but I like DeMar. So I kind of like what they did there. And for the Spurs, yeah, they added a couple other veterans around those young guys, and I think that's kind of what they're looking for right now. I think they know, like you said, they have a generational player and they have some talent, so you got to get some veterans around them, teach those guys how to be pros and how to get better. And I think they're going to try to see where that can take them and hopefully get them at least a playing spot.
Resident Bulls fan here, right? So watching him for the past 3 years, I knew DeMar DeRozan can play. I always knew that. We all always knew that, but I didn't know how effective he was in games. This is a guy this past season, I want to say maybe the past 2 seasons, but definitely this past season led the NBA in fourth quarter scoring. All right. The dude is a certified bucket. He's a walking bucket. There's only a handful of people in this league right now that if you look, man, go get me a bucket. I go to the line. I need a bucket right here. He's on that list. He's 100% on that list. I kind of hate that he went to Sacramento because I want to see him win a championship. And I know it was just maybe what two seasons ago, maybe 3 seasons ago, they had the highest scoring offense in the NBA. That kind of fell off, this past season. So I don't know where this does to. I'm not gonna say it's a lateral move because to me, he's a much better player than Harrison Barnes, but I don't think they got that much better. I don't think it puts them over the
I
top. I don't
agree.
think it moves them into the upper echelon of the Western Conference at all. So I don't know what they're doing, kind of like what Kay said, but I'm happy that DeMar got out of Chicago. All right, I'm getting sick and tired of that damn franchise. And like I said, I've been a Bulls fan ever since I can freaking remember. They pissing me off, but let's not get into that.
Um, so it's not that they didn't get a good player. We all like DeMar DeRozan would have been in the NBA finals if his team didn't have to run into LeBron James. You know
Yep.
what I mean? Like that the Raptors were that good.
Hmm.
Even when he was in San Antonio, he was a certified bucket in San Antonio before heading to Chicago. Like, the Chicago thing, we don't got to go into it. We shouldn't go into it, but that I just Lonzo Ball's knee kind of ruined what they had going in Chicago. But
Yeah.
that's a story for another day. Um, I just feel like it's about fit to me, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes it's not how good you are as a player. We can pair great players up together, but how does the team dynamic work? Like it's
Right.
still a team game at the end of the day. And
Right.
that's kind of where I'm at with it, where you probably would have been better served to just stay pat with Harrison Barnes. DeMar is a certified bucket, but his money is the mid range.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That's what kind of got me. It's like, all right, so we didn't get better so much with it. Not that he can't shoot the three, but we know we didn't get like a certified shooter. We got a certified bucket. We'll
Right.
see what it does, but to me, it just kind of came off like, all these other teams in the West are adding big names. Clay's going to Dallas. The other moves that they made over there. Let's see if we can keep up and say that we added somebody because they are a team chasing the championship. They're a
Right.
young team. I like what they got going over there, but I don't know if that really did much for them.
Yeah, I think it's tough because do you run it back with that same team for a third year? That team lost in the first round, and then that
Hmm.
team didn't make the playoffs last year. So, I mean, you lose Harrison Barnes, but you get more firepower, and I think that's kind of where they were at with it. Let's get some more firepower and try to keep up with some of these people, some of the scoring out here in the West, and kind of figure it out from there. But it would have been tough to come back with that same roster because I think people kind of that first year they bursted onto the scene, but I think people started to kind of figure them out a little bit. And they didn't give up much. It's just Harrison Barnes. I mean, obviously he's their small forward, kind of 3 and D, but
Yeah,
you
they
know
they
the
definitely
firepower.
upgraded. Well, I mean, I think they upgraded, like I said, better overall player. But this is a league where you gotta have the three ball. So he kind of takes that away from the starting lineup in terms of, stretching the floor. But he's gonna give you 25. He's gonna give you 25. And I don't think Harrison was averaging that.
Does
Call
that
me
does
Call me old school. I don't care how you get them buckets as long as you get
Yeah.
them.
I hear
That
you.
makes
Yeah.
a difference. As
Yep.
long as he's as long as he's getting if you're gonna give me 25 on all mid ranges, hey, listen, like you said,
Yep.
Harrison Barnes wasn't
And
giving
he's
you that no more
efficient
than
too, man. He will if DeMar DeRozan is putting up 20 shots, 22 shots, he's making 10, 12. Like he's
yeah.
efficient, man.
My thing is, do they now have enough spacing around for that to work? Obviously,
Yep.
Darren Fox can
that's
shoot
my
threes,
thing too. Like,
but
do
he's
you
not a 3 point shooter. They kept Herder, who was a 3 point shooter. You got Monk, who can shoot threes. Uh, so that's kind of where I'm at with it. But listen, if you're gonna give me 25, I think you kind of just figure it out from there. I
Hmm.
don't know if you try to stagger him in Fox's minutes later on.
Right.
Maybe do that type of situation. But I think you get the firepower and figure it out.
does that move push Malik Monk into their starting lineup?
I've seen people
I
say
loved him
that,
as a
but
six
I
man.
I think no. I think if Kevin Herter can go, you start Kevin Herter because that gives you some more spacing with him and Murray, and
Mm-hmm.
then obviously Fox can shoot the three a little bit, so he can space it a little bit. So I think that gives you the spacing that you need. I guess Monk can still shoot off. Monk can still shoot, so it still spaces the floor, but Monk is also more of a like Herder coming off your bench by himself isn't the same firepower as Monk coming off your bench, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So I would keep Monk on the bench, and Herder would probably fit in better with the starters because he'll get a lot of open threes.
Another move that happened, we were talking about draft picks of the Spurs over the years. DeJounte Murray ends up getting traded. The experiment in Atlanta is over.
Yep.
DeJounte Murray getting traded to the New Orleans Pelicans, going to be pairing up with CJ McCollum at the moment, Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. How do we like it?
I
I think
personally love it. I think for a while you've been saying that they need a point guard. They got a point guard, and they kept Brandon Ingram. So I don't. We still
yes.
don't know what's going to
For
happen there. The
now,
rumors
for
are
now.
still out there, but
They need
like
to keep him,
you,
man.
you basically just add a point guard in and move CJ back to the two. We all know CJ kind of played his best when he was at the two, not really playing the point guard. So you bring in a point guard, you move CJ back to his natural position. I
Right.
think that alone right there upgrades your team. And then we all know how Murray is. He's an all-star player. So I think if you can keep Brandon Ingram or whatever you get for him, I think if you think about it, you got CJ, you got Ingram, you got Zion, you got uh, Brandon Ingram if he stays, McCullum, Murray. That's a nice four, and then you kind of just filling around them.
I think that move goes for naught if you can't keep Ingram. Granted, if they move him, you got to see what they get in return. But if there's one of those things that they move him and they get peanuts, I think you gotta do something, try to make it work because that's a playoff starting five, right? But I think the person that benefits the most from this is Zion. Because remember how when for the Suns, when they picked up Chris Paul the year they went to the finals, all Devin Booker needed was a point guard to unlock him. I
Yeah.
think I think it's the same with Zion. You kind of take a little bit of pressure off of him in terms of, trying to create and all that stuff. I mean, I know he had guys like CJ and Ingram. I get it,
Played
but
with Lonzo too.
say again.
Remember when he played with Lonzo too? That
That's
was
right.
probably when he did his best work.
That's right. At the end of the game, you want the ball in his hands. Or maybe sometimes CJ, like I said, or whatever, because he's somewhat of a closer. But that's a Zion type of situation where you want the ball at the end of the game for him. So if you get a point guard out there, another playmaker, I love it. Murray's game is awesome, but if I'm NO, I'm going to do my best to try and make that work with Ingram. If not, you gotta get something that isn't doesn't take that team a step back because that's a nice starting lineup. I like that, but huge move for the Pels.
I think the biggest thing it does is open CJ back up to be that scorer that we know that he could be. I think if you look at him, maybe the last couple
No
of years,
doubt,
he's been kind of torn between finding that balance of being a point guard, when to
no
score,
doubt.
when to pass, and I think he did a good job at it. But we know CJ to go get a bucket, and I think that
Right.
gets him back to like I'm about to just go get a bucket. We got a point guard to figure it out, kind of like when he was with Dame. So I think that's the biggest thing that it opens up for them.
Okay.
Um, some other things that went down. Don't want to hit the big ones yet. Okay. Let's go. The Golden State Warriors, man. Here's the big. It's the first domino was hit. We all knew this day would eventually come, and it has come. Klay Thompson in a sign and trade move, one of the biggest sign and trades I think ever, ends up with Dallas. Gonna be wearing number 31. We could say, uh, I seen let me not even get into that. We'll do that off air. But yeah, Klay Thompson is going to Dallas. The Warriors in a pivot move decide to bring in Buddy Hield. So you now have two, obviously you be the original backcourt was two of the greatest three-point shooters. Klay's kind of taking a step back with his injuries, and you kind of replenish yourself a little bit, bringing in Buddy Hield, who
Hmm.
shot about 100 more, shot and made about 100 more threes than Steph Curry has in the past. Was it 3 years?
He's made more threes than Steph in the past 3 years. I had no idea.
He's
Combined
probably
in the
more than
past
two.
3 years, he's
Wow.
got him by like 100.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. My
Yeah,
whole
he's like
thing with
one
the
or
Golden
two.
State thing is I really wanted them to run it back. And y'all stop me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression that Clay was okay coming off the bench. He was okay taking that role so long as he wasn't playing 5, 10 minutes a game. I get you can't play him 35 minutes, but I think a good role for him would have been 20, maybe 25, maybe 30 minutes every now and then, right? And you look at the deal that he got with Dallas, it was what, 3 for 55 or 3 years for 50, something like that, right?
50, 3 years,
Okay.
50.
Golden State couldn't either they said that they couldn't or didn't want to match that. That's crazy to me because that's not a big deal. That's not a big contract to handle. And if it was something that they didn't want to do it, that's disappointing because I think that that's something that those numbers are doable. Especially you look at the contracts nowadays in the NBA. You got guys that what's his name? Again, this is someone that I actually like as a player. With Philly that just went back to Detroit. Um,
Oh, Tobias
Tobias
Harris, Long
Harris.
Island boy. Shout out
He
Long
has
Island.
made over $300 million in his NBA career. He's never been an All-Star. That's crazy.
Tobias Harris has never been an All-Star.
Mm-mm.
Was he there that one year with the Clippers?
Never
Rich.
been an
Don't
All-Star.
sound surprised.
Never been an All-Star, man. And he's made over 300 million in his career. Okay. And so I made that point to say, like, with the amount of contracts that's going on, like I thought that that's something that Golden State could have done. But I really wanted them to figure it out because I think Golden, even in his, you know, in the situation that he is in health wise, I feel that the best version of Golden State is with Clay on that team. But that's not the case anymore.
I,
Yeah, I think
I,
we all hate to see a good thing come to an end, and obviously that was like a great thing that came to the end for championships.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with Mike. I would have loved to see them stay together, but I think sometimes this is how the story ends.
Yeah.
These teams just unfortunately don't stay together. I think I've been saying for over a year now, give Clay his money, uh, whatever he's asking for. At the end of the day, I know there's no lifetime achievement awards or something, but
Mm-hmm.
I just think me as an owner, if I was an owner, maybe this is why I'm not. I'm going down with my ship. Y'all got me 4 championships. Um, you know, yeah, you still have some young talent, so it's not like they're going into a full
Right.
rebuild mode. They got some talent from when those guys go. You got your draft pick, so. Uh, but I see it from Clay's point of view too. I think obviously I've been here. I've done so much with you guys. I understand I had those injuries, and I'm maybe not the same player as I was, but Clay was a big part. I mean, Game 6, all those Game 6s, even in that
Game six
2022
Clay.
run, uh,
Mm-hmm.
he hit the big three to help them win Game 1 in Memphis. He doesn't hit that three. That
Yep.
series is different. So Clay has had some super big moments for them, and if I'm him, yeah, give me my money. You gave Wiggins money. You gave these other guys money. Who's Wiggins had one great final series. I've had a couple to save us. So like, obviously, again, it's no lifetime achievement awards, but like, if you're gonna have me coming off the bench for some guy named Brandon Brzezinski, give me my money. Like, I shouldn't even be coming off the bench for him, honestly.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to, give me my
I mean, you got to make the tough decisions. This is really why Bob Myers left because he knew that this was going to end up happening and he didn't want to be the one to do it. Um, but didn't they offered Clay 48 mil 2 years last summer and he turned it down, which I understand, he wanted his money. I don't think it came down to I think in the end it didn't come down to money. I think after they offered him the 48 2 year extension, he felt like he should have got more based on
He
the
wanted
history.
years, right?
money. I
Huh?
think
I was saying he wanted years, yes or no, but then again, he only got three out of Dallas, so I don't know. I think he wanted longevity. That's just an opinion. I have no idea.
I
I
feel like
think
it came down to
it got to the
principle.
point. Yeah, yeah, yep. I think it came down to principle. I think it was like it wasn't about the money no more. It was just about like I don't like the way you guys handle it. I'll take less to go anywhere. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I'm just getting out of here. The money doesn't
Yeah.
even matter no more. I'm just
Yeah.
getting out of here.
Remember, there was a report too after he signed with Dallas that he told Steph, "Don't use your power to keep me here. If they
Yep.
want me here, I want to
Yep.
see that they want me here, not
Right.
because you want me here."
Yep. And you got to respect that, man. Like you, again, I'm like Clay. I'm like Clay. Like Kay, I would have done my best to try and keep it. You know what I'm saying? keep him there. But especially since he said, because if I think he did say that, like, look, I'm okay with coming off the bench, like I'm fine. I would have if that makes your team better because he can't play those starting minutes anymore. And since we're on the topic, this is what I said earlier in the show that I said, I'll wait till we get there. I don't know how much this makes Dallas better. Um, I'm not saying he can't be what they need because they definitely needed, I think, some more shooting out there. But if he's gonna start, I don't know. I hope he proves me wrong. And listen, I am the last thing you could use to describe me is a knee jerker. Okay. I'm one of those guys that, mind you, I'm a Bulls fan. I saw Rose and all of that stuff. People were calling him done. I said, how can you call him done? The guy, what then he scores 50 points in Minnesota. I'm one of those
Hmm.
guys. I'm one of those guys that I gotta see it more than once for me to say, okay. I didn't think Boogie was washed. Okay. I thought
Still
people
don't.
were knee jerking on that. I have given it, I think, enough time, and I don't think Clay can do it. Is for being a starter. Like I said, 20, 25 minutes, okay. But if he's gonna start, that's interesting, man. I'm interested to see how that happens. I wish him well, but I don't know if he can. I don't know if he can hack it anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it as well. Just seeing him the last since he's come back from the injury. Like you said, he has the big shot against Memphis, for that game one. But he just has since because the thing is, it wasn't, he tore his Achilles, and a couple years later he tore his ACL. These happened like back to back. Like
Yeah,
he tore the
he
ACL
tore the
first.
ACL in the finals, and as he was
And
recovering from that,
then
he
he
ruptured
tears
his
his
knee.
Achilles,
Yeah,
which is still, we're in a place now, modern medicine. It's not a career ender like it once was because
right.
When Katie came back from the Achilles, he still looked pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But Clay's up there in age now. The shots, he's definitely not a two-way player like he once was. The
No.
defense isn't there. He just doesn't move the same way. And then the shots aren't falling like they used to
Yeah,
either.
that's what's concerning, man. Like that 0 for 10 hurt my heart. I couldn't believe that was his last game like that, man. I was just, there's no way he's going out like this.
The
And
thinking seems to be, we talk about Luca playing the style of play. The thinking
mm-hmm,
seems to be that they want him he's a guy who can still shoot without creating his own shot,
mm-hmm,
right? So they're thinking, okay, we pair him up with Luca, who likes to have the ball in his hands majority of the time. This should work out. Not saying it will. That just seems to be the way that they're thinking.
right, right. No, I get it.
What about the Warriors side of things? Do we think that this move makes them better, or are we still talking about the Warriors playing 7, 8 seed moving forward?
I think they tried their best to kind of replace what Clay had, but I think that roster, even with Clay, needed some changes. I think they're trying to
Mm-hmm,
rely a lot on their young guys, and for me, I I don't see it, but maybe that's just me. I know they're very high on Kaminga, but
mm-hmm,
I don't know if I really see it. I mean, I can be wrong, and I've been wrong before in the past. They tried to make a play for Paul George, and obviously they wasn't able to get him, but they're gonna have to rely on their young guys now unless they have another couple trades up their sleeve. So I think the roster still needs help with or without Clay. They done some good things to try to replace him. Melton is a good defender, 3-point shooter. I liked him at Memphis. Obviously we know what Buddy Hill can do. Kyle
mm-hmm,
Anderson's nice defender, smart basketball player.
mm-hmm.
Can different things like intangible things that he does. So I like what they did to kind of pick up the slack, but the roster still needs some help regardless.
I see an MVP type like season for Steph Curry, because of the fact that Clay's not there. And I think because of the fact that he's not there and he is half of the Splash Brothers, that he's just gonna take a lot more of those threes that would have been Clay's. And I get it. You still have some shooting around him, but it's nowhere near compared to the best shooting backcourt that anybody has ever seen. Um, I don't dislike the roster. I just think that the West is that good. You're probably looking at a team that's outside the top five. You know what I mean? They're probably like in that second, third tier of teams in the Western Conference. But if that team is healthy, I think Steph is going to have an MVP like season. Like he's going to be putting up some numbers, and um, we'll see. That's just my take about it. I had that same idea the year that Clay in 2020 when they were coming back from losing the finals. I had that same idea for Steph because Clay was hurt. And I'm like, well, this is Steph is going to be now options 1, 2, and 3, right? But then he hurts Clay hurts his Achilles coming back. Or no, that was the year that Steph, I think he broke his wrist earlier on in the season, and I think that was done for that. And then the next year after that, Clay, he's coming back after his Achilles, so he's out then. But then when they finally got to get together, what happened? They won a title, in 22. So I just think Steph is going to go crazy offensively this year, and who knows how long he's left, to play over at a high level. But I don't think this year is going to be one of those ho hum years for Steph Curry at all.
I still like the pairing of Buddy Hield. Buddy Hield can shoot the lights out.
Yeah,
I think we know how great of a shooter Buddy Hield is. Didn't really translate in Philly, but Philly's not the easiest place to play in. Maybe that was it, and we could see a resurgence with him playing in Golden State. I've seen it because the Lakers wanted him too, and apparently it came down to the conversation he had with Steve Kerr, and he felt like he had a better chance to win in
right.
Golden State versus with the Lakers. And I get it, but we'll definitely see how things go. I'm kind of with y'all. I guess Klay Thompson is an upgrade from Tim Hardaway Jr. at this stage in the game because he still is Klay Thompson, and I want to give him that respect. But the trend, it's not been trending in his favor the last
Hmm.
2 years.
Yeah.
Y'all ready for this one? Are y'all ready for this one? Because this is the
Mhm.
one that everybody needed to tune in for. Gotta hit the music on him one time. Gotta hit the music on him one time. Go New York, go New York, go. The team that took the NBA by storm this year after a trade that sent OG Anunoby to the New York Knicks from the Toronto Raptors in exchange for RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly has done it again. The Nova Knicks. They have captured the final infinity stone of the Nova Knicks, Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges is down with the New York Knicks. They bring back OG Anunoby. You now have probably one of the deepest starting fives in the NBA, in my opinion. I feel like even with the PG acquisition in Philly, and we'll get into that next, this is probably the best put together team to compete with the Celtics when you take into account that you now have two of some of the best wing defenders in the league in OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. Mikal Bridges has not missed a game
Since
in
high
his
school,
NBA.
right?
It's been a long time, which should fit pretty well with Tibbs, considering where we talk about with Tibbs. So, you pair up these guys, Dante DiVincenzo, Hart, Bridges, Brunson. These guys won two national titles together. Never seen it. The closest I've seen this is when Clyde went to Houston and to go team up with the Dream, and the success that they had at the University of Houston. But I've never seen something like this where you get all four of them together. And I mean, when you look at it, the Knicks never planned to have Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart in their starting lineup this past season. Things just kind of broke that way with injuries. So you get a lineup where now two guys who are some of your best scorers in the postseason are now coming off the bench. They really are one of the deepest teams to me. And man, it's been a long time since we could talk about the Knicks like this. K, are the Knicks back? We keep asking this question, but are the Knicks back?
Oh God, that's a complex answer. Uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna hold off on it.
Mhm.
I don't want to jinx nobody. I don't want to. I like the move. I was on here last episode saying that this is the move that they needed to make.
Shout out to
Uh,
K, man.
they
Yeah, yeah.
they got it done exactly how I predicted it. So I like the move. It also keeps them under the second apron. I think if they went after Paul George, they would have been close to the second apron over it, and maybe could have signed back OG. So I think this is the perfect move. You get those guys back together. I think it keeps Jalen Brunson happy. This is what they all wanted. I think
Hmm.
it was so obvious. So like just by that, just off team chemistry, it's a W. So I mean, they were a game away from the conference finals last year, and you think they got better both offensively and defensively. So uh, I don't want to say it yet because it's turned out to be jinxes after you say it. But they get to the conference finals, I'll say they're back. I'll come on here and say that they're back.
Mike,
I agree.
before you go, let's also keep in mind that this deal even happened. The last time the Nets and the Knicks did a deal with each other was 1986 or
Damn.
1980. That was my whole skepticism with it too. Like, are the Nets really gonna do a deal with the Knicks? They haven't done a deal with them in forever. But they did it. They did it. That's extraordinary. Oh, I mean, and I thought they would have went to the conference finals this year if not for injuries. So they just got scarier to me.
I think I love the move. I love it. I think it's great. New York is hyped up, awesome, and like Kay just alluded to, they're probably the either the only team or one of the few teams in the East that can throw that matchup at Boston and have guys to, kind of give them a hard time on the wing. Okay. But that loss of Isaiah Hartenstein, I'm wondering how much that's going to affect them. Now, if Julius Randle comes back and he's okay, maybe they don't feel it as much. But we're talking about two completely different players. Julius Randle's there to score and provide some emotional hustle, all that stuff. Isaiah Hartenstein, that's a guy he's like, I don't want to call him Noah, but in that mold, okay. And you lose a guy like that, he was probably gonna. Who started? Was it Mitchell Robinson that started, or was it Hartenstein that
It
started?
was originally Robinson, but
Was
then
it
after Robinson's injury, Hartenstein came in and he just gave him too much production for them to take him out of the starting lineup.
okay? All right. So Mitchell's gonna start. what's the what's the
The
plan for them
backup
in
plan.
terms of in terms of when he comes? I mean, they're gonna have to figure that out. I don't know what did they do in the draft? Did they draft some
But they
height?
got they have Jericho Sims there already, so you can hope that he continues to develop
Right.
and had that's your backup option. But if not, they're gonna have to. I
Some
actually know like my boy Rashad was in here. I don't know if he's still in here. But he was actually the one that put me on to Khalil Ware because he wanted the Knicks to draft him.
okay.
So
I
they're gonna
like
have to get
Sims.
an they're gonna
I
have to
think
unless Sims develops, they're gonna have to get another big
Right.
in there. Which
I
there's still some
think
guys in the market.
I think if Randall is healthy, it might be a lot of Randall at the five. If Mitchell
Mm.
goes down, you think with OG, you think with Bridges, and then you add Hart because Hart's a good rebounder, or you add DiVincenzo for his 3 point shooting. So you can maybe do Hart and Randall together. Randall's a big enough body to maybe bang with the fives down there. Hart's a good enough rebounder to help him on the board.
The only thing, the Knicks more than anybody in the NBA need health. I'm gonna tell you why. Because of who their coach is. The last thing you want is for somebody to go down for an extended period of time due to injury, and then you have guys start playing out of position. Uh, a guy that's playing the four that probably shouldn't be, that's going to provide wear and tear on his body. And then on top of that, you're probably going to be worn out to the max because of the minutes that you're playing because of who your coach is. Mind you, I'm not one of those guys that says Tibbs wears guys out. He really doesn't. He really doesn't. When he was with Chicago, he didn't wear Rose out. He wouldn't wear Rose tore his ACL because he put him back in the game.
Mhm.
I think Philly was making a run. Whoever it was that were playing, making a run. He wanted to put their starters back in. Freak accident. He didn't play Noah like that either. The only guy who really played, and it wasn't even Butler. Yeah, but it was Butler and Dang. Those are really the only two guys. Unless things got hairy with injury, because then Nate Robinson played a ton and so on and so forth. But he doesn't really bury his guys unless he has to. This guy's, I hate that he has that stigma. I think people just get hurt under him. And look, this is the NBA. You're supposed to be playing basketball like that. Okay. So that's just my take. Maybe I'm, old man on the porch or whatever, but that's just the way I see it. But they, more than anybody in the NBA, need health because, like I said, Jericho Sims, hopefully I like him. I forgot about him. Okay, second year guy. I think Texas. He was with Texas.
Yep. Yep.
Went to Texas. Okay. But I got to see it first. You know what you got with Hartenstein. You know what you got with Robinson. That grit. They were uh Thibodeau type of players with that
Mhm.
attitude, and you couldn't get by them. Did that rub off on Jericho Sims? Maybe, we don't know. But if the Knicks are healthy, okay, I'll rock with them. Let's see. I got to root for somebody this year because my Bulls ain't doing a goddamn thing.
Here's my thing. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna overstate the loss of Isaiah Hartenstein. Um, he to me, Hartenstein was a culture guy because
Mm-hmm.
it's not like he was somebody who just came in the league. He's been in the league for a few years,
Right.
solid player, but never saw him play like this. It's kind of like what you see from some of these guys in Miami. You never saw him play like this till he got into the system. So I don't think it's a like we all knew he wasn't coming back. We all knew he was gonna get paid. OKC was the likely suitor, and that's exactly what happened. When you bring in Mikal Bridges and re-sign OG Anunoby, I don't really think it's a big deal that you losing Isaiah Hartenstein, considering what you just added. You gotta hope, like you
Yeah.
said, that Sims maybe continues to develop and turns another corner, or try and bring somebody in. I know they had Precious Achua playing some
Mm-hmm.
five. He's not a natural five, but they've had him playing there. He plays a little bigger than he actually is. He's a free agent right now. We'll see if they bring him back, but that's an option for them as well.
Right.
But I think regardless, I do agree with you that health is a thing. And the thing with Tibbs is that he doesn't go it people complain about him running guys into the ground. The other thing is, and I don't understand it, he does not go deep into his lineups.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That
Yeah.
so you figure they go 10 deep when your starting five is Brunson, Bridges, Anunoby, Randall, Mitchell Robinson with help. And then
Right.
off the bench, McBride, DiVincenzo, Hart. So that's eight
8.
guys. Which is about what he usually does.
Right.
So I don't know, man. I thought that they could give the Celtics a run for their money this past season. I thought that I had them going to the conference finals. I wasn't gonna pick them to win, but I thought that they could have took the Celtics 6 games. What do the
That's
Celtics have issues with? With Miami. What is their biggest issue with Miami? Miami, they got a bunch of dogs over there. They play
mm-hmm.
defense.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna get on you. They're gonna get in your face. They're gonna
And that's
play
a
hard.
and that's a
Under
Thibodeau team.
Tibbs,
Yep.
under Tibbs, what do these guys do?
Yep.
They're a defensive minded team and they play hard and they retained one of their best defenders and then added another one of the best wing defenders in the league. And with Brunson still running the show.
Right.
That's just if you're a Knicks fan, you should feel happy. And if you're these other teams in the league, including Philly, who we're gonna get into, you should still be worried about the Knicks.
They need to have Jay right on speed dial. Maybe have him on a on
That'd be crazy. We really doing the power of friendship here. We gonna see if this works out.
I would love to see that, but Jay Wright ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, I think Harkenstein is only a problem because Mitch Robinson always has health issues. So, like I said, you
Mm,
maybe do Randall at the five, and that might be a better offensive lineup for them anyway. So we'll see how it
That
goes.
might be their death lineup. I could see that being their closing lineup.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see how it goes. That's the only problem though. If Mitch goes out in a series like he did,
right.
I think this year against Philly or something, we kind of run into a few issues. So that's the only
And
thing
I
about it.
forgot. Go ahead. I thought you were done, man.
Nah, I was gonna say last thing I would say is that's the only thing about losing Harkenstein as far as like something like that happening.
The only thing I was gonna say is Jay Wright's not even coaching anymore. I forgot about that. Like I was in my head, he was still at Villanova, but he's not. So he's actually a free agent. You might want to pick up that phone call just for some. I don't know. That'll make things really spicy in New York. Can you imagine the headlines tomorrow? Jay Wright
Mm-hmm.
signs 1 year deal as New York Knicks assistant coach. That's crazy.
I will just add too. aside from, what the Knicks just did. I think like people talk about, the Nets have kind of been a mess the last couple of years. They seemed like they were going somewhere with D'Angelo
Yeah.
Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie and them, and then they pivoted, which is completely understandable, to go get Kyrie and KD. Tried this, they took their shot with the Harden trade, didn't work out. And they kind of had to stick with that. People like will say, you look at all this stuff that's happened, why Sean Mark still has a job. This deal with the Knicks and with the Rockets is why Sean Mark still has a job. Being able to get your next two, especially in a draft where what's this kid's name coming out
Cooper
from
Flag.
Connecticut?
Oof,
No,
you got me.
Cooper. You talking about Cooper Flag?
Yeah. You got
Oh,
Coop.
he's at Duke.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's going to Duke.
he's
Going to Duke.
Um, when you got a draft like that coming up next year, to be able to get your two picks back, it's pretty genius stuff.
Mm-hmm.
yeah he's practicing with Team USA
Yep.
right now. He's on a select team.
He did. I saw he
So
did some stuff to AD in a scrimmage game.
Well, he went
yeah,
up
they're
on
gonna
the one
overhyped it. I
the
seen
the
AD block him early.
eggs.
He
That's what I was
blocked
gonna
it.
say.
What
So
was it? A
fine.
block, and then he came back up.
He dunked it, but it was I don't think AD was around that. It was like a scramble. He
I didn't
cut,
watch it. I
inbound
just
him.
heard about it.
Yeah, he dunked, but it was it's not he dunked on AD. AD blocked his shot initially.
Got you. Well, I mean, that stuff is big time too. So I think everybody made out in these deals. I mean, the
Yeah.
Rockets were willing to do the deal because allegedly they, now they get Phoenix's first round picks. See if they can take a shot at KD. We'll see how that progresses in the next year. But yeah, man, crazy stuff in the NBA. One more thing before we get out of here, which was the big free agency acquisition. Paul George leaving the Clippers. Clippers get absolutely nothing for Paul George to head to Philly. And Philly now has a new big three of Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Joel Embiid. On paper, this is the team that you look at like, okay, that's who Boston's got to be worried about, right? Obviously,
Hmm.
Milwaukee's still there. The Knicks, we just talked about the Knicks. But on paper, when you look at the talent, as far as those three guys goes, this is the team to watch. But then I'm a guy that's about track records. What have you shown me? This is because
Hmm.
this is what I'm gonna know you for. And I know Joel Embiid gets hurt a lot. He missed
Yeah.
30 something games. The whole reason why that Philly was even in the eighth spot was because of his injury.
Yeah.
I know Paul George gets hurt a lot. So obviously, when you put the talent, even outside of those three, they still got a pretty talented roster. But just looking at that, it didn't move me that much. It didn't move me like it should have when you consider these guys' injury history.
I'm hoping because what you said is 100% accurate and you can't, there's no pushback to that. I'm hoping that because of what you just said, they have a really talented roster, that puts less strain on how much they have to do, what they have to do, and how much they have to do it. Because I'm, correct me if I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this, but to me, Paul George is third fiddle on this roster. It's Embiid, it's Maxey, and then it's Paul George. I don't think he'll have a hard time fitting into that because you know how it is when you get to this point in your career. You want to do whatever you can just to win, right? And I've always liked Paul George's game. Shout out to him. He just a couple however long ago it was said he's wearing number 8 in honor of Kobe. So I think that's pretty cool. But they also picked up Andre Drummond. I thought that's huge. That guy averaged 9 rebounds, and I think he did so. He came off the bench, averaged 9 rebounds this past season for the Bulls. You picked up Caleb Martin. We'll see how he does because we all know how Heat players do once they step away from the culture, right?
Mhm.
But they drafted Jared McCain. There's still Eric Gordon there, Kelly Oubre, Mr. Do It All. So they have the pieces, man. They have the pieces. I love their coach. Nick Nurse is a genius,
Mhm.
and that's what I think is going to take this team over the top because to me, he's the closest thing to Spo when it comes to trying to figure things out, doing a lot with a little, right? So we'll see, man. I'm praying for health because I hated that this Eastern Conference this year the way it was. I'm not taking anything from Boston at all, but I would have loved to see me personally would have loved to see Milwaukee and Boston because I still think that Milwaukee can be a really good team if they're healthy. They just got to learn to play some good damn defense. Like I
Look at
don't
Doc
get
Rivers
it.
as their coach.
I know. And Doc Rivers has been giving up leads ever since '08. I saw it. I'm a big
It's
KG
actually
guy, and go ahead.
it's actually been since like '01 because
Oh,
he
one.
gave up
Yeah,
the
yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah, the Orlando.
But I paid attention to it more because of the fact I'm a huge KG guy, and every time they were up double, they lost Game 7 in the 2010 finals after being up, I think 12 or 13 points. I don't know if you guys remember that, but they were up 12, 13 points in that game in the third quarter, and they lost that game. But health, just like the Knicks, is the name of the game for Philly, and if that's the case, my Eastern Conference final, I'm gonna go ahead and say it right now, is gonna be Boston. Do I want to say Milwaukee or Philly? Right now I'll go Philly. I'll go Philly. So we'll see.
Our New York Knicks fans ain't gonna like you, Mike.
I would love to see the Knicks, man. I would love to see the Knicks because listen, I'm in Miami. You know I can't stand Miami Heat fans. No shade to you, Rich. You're one of the good ones.
Yeah.
But the Heat fans down here, they're unbearable, bro.
Yeah,
I don't think you
I
got to
was
worry about Miami. My bad, Kay.
I was gonna say I kind of agree a lot with what Mike said. I kind of like how they filled out the rest of the roster. I like Oubre. I forgot they got Drummond, so that's a big pickup. And then who else?
Drafting
So I
McCain,
like
I think Mike brought that up too. Drafting McCain's a pretty big deal.
Hmm.
yeah, so I like the way they filled out the rest of their roster. So we'll see what other moves they end up doing here. Uh, health is gonna be
Paramount.
issue. Obviously, we've seen Embiid not be able to stay healthy. Paul George was healthy last year, but he's had his problems in the past. So they was able to re-sign Maxi. So they got those guys together. They just gonna need some time to gel. So we'll see what happens after they can kind of get things gelling. I think that they're a team that's dangerous, but they're more unknown because they're a new team put together. Uh,
Right.
the Knicks have kind of been the same.
True.
Boston's the same. So you're adding a big piece into, I guess, a couple of those guys like Embiid and the guys been there already, but you're adding a big piece into their mix, and other teams are kind of adding smaller pieces into it. So they have a bigger curve to kind of learn and hit the ground running. But obviously, if they get it going, it could be dangerous. We'll see what happens. I think right now, I got Boston and New York.
Boston and who?
New York. I
New
got
York.
the
Okay.
Knicks. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
The Philly could be dangerous if they hit their stride at the right time.
All right.
I ain't gonna even seeing another Knicks Philly matchup like that 1-8 in the first round. That was fun, and that's that the Knicks and Philly were both coming in there injured. I would hope
Yeah,
to see that again
but
on full power.
I've been a big person tearing down the East, but I think the East got a lot better this year. I think it's gonna be a good run with the Bucks, the Celtics, the Knicks, Philly.
Hmm.
Uh, so I think the East got a lot better. So we'll see. I'm excited for the East. I can say maybe like the first time in my life.
Then they're still not the West, you know what I
Right.
mean? But they're
They're
but
the
they're
West.
and they're
They're
top
definitely the
heavy.
West.
All
They're
right.
definitely the
Yeah.
West.
They're top heavy,
I
but
think
that's
Miami's still
definitely
gonna be
them.
good too, so I'm gonna throw Miami in there too.
Man, I
So
don't want to talk about
they
Miami, bro.
they're their regular seasons haven't been as great, but Jimmy Butler's talking about playing a lot more. There's that going on. You get a full year with Terry Rozier in there. We talked about Khalil Ware a little bit earlier. We'll see what happens with Hero if he decides to take the bench role. Whatever happens there. Bam's playing for Team USA. You hope he learns a lot from those guys and comes
All
back
right.
better. You brought back Kevin Love. We'll see else what they're able to do. So I think they're always going to be in it, even if they're not in it during the regular season. Playoff time comes, they can upset one of those teams at the top for sure.
You got
There's
yeah, go ahead.
My bad. I was just gonna say there's still some good free agents out there too. When I'm,
Yeah,
solid that I don't know if these are guys that are still available because teams don't look at them highly or because maybe they're just there because they could only fit on teams that are maybe that one piece
yeah.
away. Like there's guys like Lowry. I'm not a fan of Lowry, but maybe he could be some first. Markel Fultz is out there. Dinwiddie, Lonnie
Ooh.
Walker, so
It's the new second and first apron. You know, usually on the first night of free agency, there's a whole bunch of deals. Free
right.
agency has been
You gotta
real
calculate
slow.
that now.
This is the
Okay.
slowest I've ever seen free agency in my
Okay,
life.
makes
So
sense.
teams are kind of to me, teams are like walking lightly. They're walking on eggshells. all that type of stuff. They don't
Okay,
a
that
lot of
makes
that.
sense.
If you look at the reason why Paul George is in Philly is because of the second apron and things that's happening with the cap and the new CBA. So I think a lot of teams are kind of still trying to figure this thing out. So I think it's held up free agency a lot. A lot of teams are trying to
Mm,
stay under that cap, stay under that second apron. This is a whole nother conversation that we're not gonna get into today, but that is a whole thing within itself that teams
Yeah.
are worried about right now. I also forgot the Magic got better. Shout out to them.
KCP.
The Cavs
that's
brought
right.
back Donovan Mitchell. So the East, that's what like
And
six
I didn't
teams
even
right
think of that.
there.
That is true. That is true.
The East
That
is
is
gonna be
true.
good this year. It's the first time I'm gonna say that. So I
I,
hope they don't
I
let me down. They're still not the West. They'll never be the West,
no, no.
but they'll be the good team.
My question, because I honestly wanted to see a Denver Boston finals this year. I want to see what Denver's going to do because I'm not saying this is why they didn't repeat as champions this year, but I'm sorry. Bruce Brown was a big part of that championship run, and I don't really think that they addressed his loss. There was talk about Russ going there, whatever that didn't
Still might
happen.
happen.
Oh, Russ did re-up with LA?
No, he did,
He
but it
did.
still might happen.
Okay. I think that would be the perfect fit. I think that would be the perfect guy to replace that Bruce Brown role, especially if he's still willing to come off that bench, or maybe some of the names, that I just rattled off there available for agents. I don't know. I think Lonnie Walker. Why not Lonnie Walker? Why can't that be a fit in Denver? But we'll
I
see, man. I'm surprised he's still available, actually.
I think the Nuggets' problem is now, even if you replace Russ to put him in that Bruce Brown role, you now lost KCP. So you got to replace the
Mm,
KCP role too.
shooting,
So,
yeah. Yeah,
and they
you're right.
lost him because of the whole second Abram salary cap type of thing. So it's a lot going on with there that's just slowing a lot of things down and changing a lot of things.
Fair, fair.
You think that they can get Russ in a trade and then I would love it. Like if I'm a Nuggets fan, if I can get Russ and Lonnie Walker, I feel
Listen,
like we ready to go.
Gary Trent's available still too. That's a shooter right
Gary
there.
Trent is gonna be a great signing for a team when he does get signed. I love Gary Trent Jr.'s game.
Hmm. I do too.
Yeah, he replaced the shooting that KCP brought for them. So I think the Nuggets have a lot to figure out. They're a long ways away from that team that won a championship a few
Yeah.
years ago. So
Do y'all think
people are still very high on them. I think they might struggle this year if they don't make it.
Okay.
do y'all think it's over for the Clippers losing Pete? They pretty much chose. Well, I know they didn't want to give Paul the fourth year, which I don't blame them. And it did go into the apron thing as well that Kayson was talking about. But I don't know if I want to pay a 38-year-old $50 million
Yeah.
at that point. Do y'all think it's over for them? I don't know, man. This
I
retrospect, OKC clearly won the trade.
gotta see what they do in terms of picking up whoever. Like they're not going to be as good as they could have been with Paul George coming back, assuming health again, and then I'd be pissed off if I was a Clippers fan because Kawhi all of a sudden, I'm not saying that he's faking or anything, but it's like, damn, dude, you're healthy now. Like, playing in Vegas over with Team USA is like that's kind of annoying. But I'm actually surprised he decided to take that invite and play because I mean you need to chill out, man. Like when he's healthy, he's probably a top three player in the world. Kawhi Leonard is, all right. Or five or whatever, at least in the league. But I don't know, man. I don't think they could do much to try and get where those expectations were with Paul George and Kawhi.
Yeah, I don't know because they brought back Harden. I guess they're gonna try to maybe give him a bigger role now with PG
Oh
going. But
God.
like I said, it was a money thing, so I guess their hands were kind of tied. I think I'm
Hmm.
always a proponent of give him the money and then trade him in that last year if you don't want him. It's an expiring contract, but there's apron things going on, and that thing is really really messing up the NBA
Yeah.
and what teams are able to do. So they try to fill it out. They got Derrick Jones Jr. They try to get a couple pieces in there. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what they get in the Russ trade if they end up getting rid of Russ. Because losing PG and Russ, I think Russ was like the heart of that team.
Yep.
PG was obviously another superstar to go there, so it's gonna be a different team. So we'll see how they put it together. I think they taken a step back, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Anything
Sometimes
else before we
less
get
is
out of here? Oh, my bad.
sometimes less is more. So
Hmm.
You see how Derrick Jones Jr. was able to affect Dallas and help them get to the finals. So sometimes less is more. Obviously, Kawhi has to stay healthy. If he's not healthy, their plans are kind of ruined regardless. So it would have been like that with or without PG. So
Right.
sometimes less is more, though. Simpler basketball.
For sure. Anything else before we get out of here, gentlemen?
I appreciate everyone that came in, stopped by, left a comment. Everyone that just checked in. Mike, I appreciate you for coming on and spending a few hours with us. It's been a while since we was able to catch up with you, so appreciate
No,
you as
man,
always,
it's
brother.
my pleasure. I love the invites that, whenever you guys offer me one, if I can make it, I, love it. You guys, talking ball with you is a pleasure, man. Didn't even feel like a few hours. A lot of fun, always.
Yeah. For sure, man. And with that being said, it's Rich, it's Mike, it's Kayson. We will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.